I like the mixing. I like the mixing of our on-ramp with our live podcast. I like how we're playing with, we just hit live, right? Like when I was out on my walk this morning, I thought about that. I thought how we're kind of doing this now. We're starting our conversation and we just hit live when we feel it's time to hit live.
So maybe just to so back it up, typically for any of the podcast newcomers or someone that may or may not be listening to us, you set the podcast up, you stage it. So you have the on ramp, and you're sort of the rapport building. It's like the green room. So you sort of hang out for a little bit, you chat, you warm each other up, a few bait questions, a few like, hey, how you doings? And then someone says, okay, what do you think? We good? Should we go to tape? And everyone's like, yay, let's go to tape. So what's fascinating is that you and I held that tradition for the last like three seasons, and even 3 seasons plus a little bit into the 4th season. We respected that tradition. We would be talking. We'd come on, we were like, ha 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 ha, what an amazing on ramp, all that stuff that we're not going to tell you about. And now, we kind of had that combo is like, can we just kind of hit record and go in hot, go in live, basically. And it's a different shift, eh? It's funny the trust. It's the trust part too. Because when you kind of propose it, you're like, can I just hit record? I'm like, yeah, dude, anytime you do it, hit record. That doesn't come, it's not that simple. Let's say if you're sort of doing your official podcast out there and you're talking with someone for the first time and you're hoping that you can get at least 45 minutes of good tape without too much editing. Well, what if you don't care? And I think what we're doing is a positive reflection of that. We care, but I think we care about better things.
I wasn't even going to talk about the back end of it. When you said, hey, let's talk about the back end of this, I was like, it's all yours, because I don't even want to go there anymore. I feel like as I was thinking about this morning, I was thinking what I love about this, what I love about you being open to it, is that it becomes a new fluency. It just becomes the way we do it. We don't need any of that stuff anymore. That's just not what we're doing here. And so I was thinking about that today and thinking, I'm going to shift in a second, but I was thinking about the moments that we have here on the podcast and how they impact my life in different areas. So me thinking about the way we go live now is we just, as we're talking, you've given me the green light to hit the button whenever I want. So we just talk, and when I feel like it's a good time to start recording, I just hit the button. And that speaks to my life. Like, I'll be doing something, and instead of stopping and prepping, I just hit the button and I just go live. There's power there. So for me, it's like it's me seeking some kind of control over me and who I am and what I do. And for me, that empowers me. So I'm going to enjoy that as long as I can, as long as it serves me, I think.
Drop some wisdom. What does that look like in your real life, besides in this space?
It could be, well, it doesn't have to be. I'll tell you exactly what it is. Yesterday and the day before, what it looked like was going into a meeting with my division or talking to my special education teacher and being asked a question or participating in a conversation. And instead of stopping and thinking about how I can say what I want to say in order to maximize preventing hurt feelings or making myself appear a certain way, I hit live and I just jumped right in with how I was feeling and what I was thinking at that time, with the understanding and being okay with how I may be perceived. I just go live. Like, and it's not about, it has nothing to do with, like, I'm not purposefully looking for difficulties or adding difficulty to my life. I'm looking for authenticity. I'm looking for expressing myself as who I am and actually liking myself for who I am instead of constantly trying to analyze and decipher who people want me to be. And it's really freeing. And I think the only unfortunate thing is I waited, 40 odd years to kind of make this part of an operating system. And it's not yet, but I'm working on it. It's just,
Mhm.
that's what it is. And it's okay. Like, here's a great example of a huge shift in my life that I see. I don't know if the people around me see. So for many years, an issue in my house has been, why are you so nice and kind to people outside of the home, but then in the home you're more abrasive to the family, you're less sensitive to our needs? And for years I've tried to explain why that may be the case. Like, my family's my family, they know everything about me, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of an open space for me to get upset about certain things or be really happy about certain things, right? But when I'm at work, work is not the place. People at work don't know me. People at work don't need to live with me. So in a weird kind of way, I had a justification. What's really funny about this is I said to my friends last night at hockey, I said I see it shifting. And I said to my wife yesterday morning, I said, be prepared to hear about your husband and how much of a jerk he is from this point forward, because I have a feeling what's happening is I'm being more difficult outside of my home, and I'm starting to be more awesome inside of my home. So the thing that they've always wanted me to be is starting
Here,
to is
here it
starting
comes.
it's coming, but now the response can be, well, you can't be like that out there. And I'm like, well, what is that out there? Can we name what that out there is? Is it me being me, or is it now me being me that you don't want people to see what I am and who I am? Like, so let's tear this apart a little bit. And I'll give you credit for this, Chris, because you're the one lately that's been talking about pushing back on things and pivoting, and what do you do now that you know? So it's, for me, it's like, so okay, what's happening at work is I'm tired. I'm tired.
Mhm.
I'm just tired. And so when I go to work, my focus, my primary focus is my classroom, my students, primary focus. And it's a struggle. So a lot of energy is being put into that particular struggle to teach kids, to make them better people, to build a relationship with them that serves me and them. Like, it's got to work for everybody, or else then it's no good. Outside of that, I'm finding it very difficult to deal with requests that under normal circumstances wouldn't be an issue at all. But I'm dealing with them. And so if you kind of put me in a situation where, okay, this is what we need to do, how are we going to do it? And everybody's doing the dance, nobody really wants to commit to anything,
Hmm.
then I'm coming out and I'm like, okay, well, this isn't working. We need to make decisions. Well, I'm not meeting again. Like, we're not going to keep doing this every day. We got to make some decisions. We got to move forward. And if we have mistakes with our moving forward, then we can get together and shift again. But until then, we got to move.
Mhm.
And I find I'm not doing a very good job of dressing it up and making it. I'm not dressing it up so that people know what I'm saying, but I'm just saying it in a nice way. I'm just saying it. And it's like, if you don't like it, then don't come and see me. Sorry. Like, that's what it's come to. That's how I feel. Now, do I project that? I think for some people are seeing more of that than others. I think the people that truly understand me, because I feel there's an understanding, I don't think I'm as abrasive with them. I don't think I'm as abrasive. I think they just get me and I get them, and it's civil. I mean, I don't think any of it's not civil, but it's just different. It's different. So when I'm at home, I'm happy to be home. You know, I'm happy to, even though I complain about helping my son with his high school work, I'm happy to be doing it because I can see that there's going to be a positive end result. You know, he feels good about his learning. He's doing well in school. You know, I'm my wife and I are supporting him in that. I truly believe we're basically providing him with his IEP accommodations is really what we're doing. You know, he gets the work and we're like, okay, well, you spend your energy with the thinking, like the critical thinking and the creativity. You put your head there. And then as you spitting it out, we will support you in making sure that your ideas and your thoughts end up somewhere
Mhm.
in a rational way, that someone will look at this and say, okay, he understands this idea, or he made a great argument here. All that stuff is his. The brain power is his. How he's getting it to the teacher is us with his accommodations, because
Yep.
nobody else is accommodating him. So we will. And so there's a satisfaction there for me. And there's also satisfaction of seeing him see positive results and be happy with his results. So I'm coming home and I'm enjoying the home, but here's where I'm going to shift to something I sent you on Thursday. On Thursday, I sent you an Instagram post, and it's from a guy. I think he's an entrepreneur, and this is what he pushed out. It said, "Far too often, we don't know the value of a moment until it's a memory."
Mhm.
And I sent that to you and a couple of other friends who I've been having these conversations with. And when I saw that, I said, not anymore, not to me. And what's happened to me is, and you and I were talking about this on the on ramp about our families and how they're not the most ideal family situations, but they are what they are. I
The extended family.
right,
Only
sorry.
mention that relative to our spaces. Like it's like what we've got in the four walls around us is the is the good project. It's the one that you're sort of spending your time on. Some of those connections beyond the four walls. I have work to do.
Yeah, I got work to do too. But it's not my priority work. But
Mhm. Mhm.
for a long time, I'm not going to say many years, but for a long time, and making a connection back to my childhood, this idea of not understanding the value of a moment until it's a memory, this idea, I can say, has not been an issue for me. I have spent a long time being in a moment and understanding that this moment is special and that I need to be here and present now in order to truly soak up every part of this moment, so
Mhm.
that it's not, I don't look back on it and wish that I had done something differently with it. I pushed it out to you. Um, I pushed it out to a couple of other people, and one of my friends really got into it with me about it. You know, like he's like, "Tell me more. Like, what is your process? What does this look like for you?" And it was really awesome to go down that road with him, because I said to him, and I was just with him. I was just with him. He put the snow tires on my wife's car, and as I was at his house, and as he was putting the snow tires on my car, and as I was saying hello to his kids and talking to his wife, I was I was in my glory, because I knew that that moment was not just me getting snow tires put on my car. That
Mm.
moment was hanging out with a respected and trusted friend of mine whose family knows me and I know them, and we have a common appreciation for each other's. And so the laughing and the joking that was happening that evening, and even the serious talk we had, all of it now is banked right up in here as a moment in time where I enjoyed myself on a Tuesday night. Right? Like it wasn't just, I didn't just go and get my snow tires put on. I knew what that moment was going to be for me, And so I open myself up and I let it all in. And I've been doing that a lot, especially since COVID. Especially since COVID, I've been much more a heightened awareness. But even before COVID, I can say, and I can say this now because I can make these connections. Even before COVID, it goes back to my childhood. And you and I were talking about this, about I believe that my children are living out their childhood in a way where I think I've, my wife and I have overdeveloped or saturated the moments in their life. I think
Yeah.
we've provided them with a lot of moments, maybe too many, where to them it's not a big deal anymore. But for me, it's always going to be a big deal because I don't feel like I had a lot of them when I was a kid. And I'm not blaming anybody. It's just the world, the reality I was in, right? It was my reality. It was how we lived life back then. Like, and I can tell you, as I talk about this, I can remember the moments. I remember there was this department store. Can't remember what it was called, but it was a really fun place, and it was attached to a grocery. There was a grocery store in the department store, and there was an open area between the two, so you could cross from one to the other. And I remember when we go grocery shopping, we would always start in the grocery store and we'd do our shopping. And then we would go into the department store and I'd always go to the toys and I always look at the toys. And really, that was like a Friday night for us. And, and it's a fond memory because it did something. It was time spent with the family. It was just time together. Whereas now I feel like time together is the default. But back in the day when I was a kid, that wasn't the default, or at least it didn't feel that way to me. So growing up, it's always been it's funny now that when you talk about it, things come up. I remember I've got fond memories in university of being at my friend Jay's house, and Jay became a close friend of mine. And being at his place and hanging out with him and the people that lived in the house with him, it was like, for them, I feel like it was just, hey, it's university, we're hanging out, we're having fun, we're doing our work and we're having fun. But to me it was like, no, this is different to me. And it's almost like I take a step back and I look down on it. And I do that not to remove myself from the present. It's just it's for me, it's a way to trigger my photographic memory to turn it on and record this,
Mm.
because this is a moment and you don't want to look back on not having really relished it. And I can tell you, as I speak about it, I can tell you it's there and I relish that moment. It's a fond memory that there's no regrets there. At the same time, I wish that I could get rid of some of the regrets that I have living in my brain,
Mm.
but I can't have the good without the bad. And so I learned to deal with the bad and really appreciate the good. So as I'm telling my friend, dude, I did this the other day at your house. This is what I did. I literally broke. It was so cool. I kind of feel like I want to blog about it or something because it was so cool to to take the steps and to break it down. So literally, I pumped myself up to go. So once I knew I was going to be at his house on this day at this time, that was a nugget for me to look for. It was a carrot. It was the carrot in front of me to get through my work days and to get through the things I had to do to get to that time. So first of all, it was a pump up. I knew it was going to happen and I was pumping myself up for it. I was looking forward to this nugget in the middle of my week that was going to bring me joy. I already knew it was going to bring me joy. Like, I made that decision. So first, it's the pump up, it's the prep, it's the setting yourself up for something joyful. Then at the arrival, it was the greeting. Hey man, how's it going? It's good to see you again. And just soaking it in, looking around. Literally, what do I see? What do I hear? What do I smell? What do I feel? And it was cold. And I purposely, it's freaky. I took my toque off and I let my head get cold. Like, I wanted to feel the crisp, cool air of the fall as part of what I'm doing here. And then as he's taking the tires off the car and we're joking about hockey and we're talking about family and friends, his wife comes out And so my focus turns to her and I'm talking to her. All my attention's on her. And then the kids come out and it's joking about what they're wearing. How's school going? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're working hard. It was everything was broken down. And then when the kids went in, it was time to talk adult stuff. It was literally like a menu. And it was just, I want this now, and I want this now, and I want this now. And when it came to the end, I said to him, I really appreciate your time and your friendship. And he looked at me like, I just changed your winter tires. And I said, no, you didn't. And he didn't get, I don't think he got it at the time. It wasn't just getting my winter tires changed for me. It was a setup. It was me relishing that moment. That, what if it never happens again? What if something happens to him or to me? What if? We don't know.
The thing, what I love you just said there, and this is kind of, I just want to add to it, right? Well, it's hot, kind of like on hot in the frying pan. That moment won't happen again. And I'm not saying that in a nihilistic fashion or like, yeah, dark. It actually won't happen again. I mean, you could say there's one way to look at it. What if this doesn't happen again? Is in that person, we can sort of, in order to be present in the moment, you can kind of say, be in the moment because something bad could happen to the person that's with you, or something bad could happen to me. That's one way to kind of value it and kind of light you up and go, I should be paying attention, put my phone down, get into the moment. But there's another slightly more nuanced way to sort of look at it, is that the fact of it is that we live forward. So no matter what, even if nothing happens to this person, this particular moment, even between you and I, will never happen again. So I kind of just look at it from the point of view of, even if, you're sitting there with a convalescing or dying friend, or if you're just having a sandwich by yourself, or if you're trying to get connected via Zoom with somebody that you met on Facebook, that particular moment will never happen again. And I think when you start to make that kind of a tool portable, and I've told you about, just kind of referring to some of the work that I'm doing for myself, it's really looking that directly in the face and to bear the weight of being present in more of my day. Because it's not always great. It's not always great, but just to kind of like shake that idea that you just said, because someone may hear that and just say, oh, okay, that's true, love your neighbors, love your friends, because you may never see them again. Or you could just say, because we move forward all the time, if you're not making the most of that moment, it's a wasted, gone moment. Like it is gone. So why not lock it in with a good memory? Like you said, it became a different kind of Tuesday for you.
Well, even like, dude, as you're talking, yeah, I get what you're saying. What I mean is the opportunity to hang with him again, really. But I hear what you're saying. That moment that's it. It's never going to happen like that again. But the opportunity to be with him, to hang out with him. It's like when you and I get together for our food extravaganza. It's like, dude, those experiences are the same as this one.
Yep.
You saying, okay, I'm going to be in your city on this day at this time. Oh, bring on the pump. Like, I'm ready. Let's do this, and just like I remember driving away from the cottage in July, driving to your place. And you asked my wife, I was giddy. I was like, I'm out of here. Have a great day. I'll see you guys when I get back. And I wasn't even gone that long, but it was like just knowing that we were going to get to hang out, knowing we were going to get to talk, knowing that we were going to get to break bread and enjoy ourselves in that realm as well, is like, it's awesome. And as I talk about it, I can remember the times you've come here and, the awesome moments we've had chilling and just hanging out, like being present and true friendship,
Yep.
And so for me, I've been working on this for a long time, because I don't feel like I had a lot of those moments as a kid. And I don't know what my parents would say, but I truly feel like I didn't have those moments. Even like like I'll take my kids to hockey and I will stay and watch and stuff. And I provide commentary to their displeasure. I'll provide some commentary. But I remember as a kid, my dad would drop me off at hockey and then go to work. Like I
Hmm.
would literally go into the arena and somebody would tie my skates. That was just the life I was living. My dad, it wasn't for him. He had other things. He had to go to work. Even those little things, like my kids, they'll never understand that, right? To them, it's like, oh, dad was with me all the time.
They
Time,
see it from the other side. I remember your post about tying skates. You posted something up about tying skates. I don't know if that was in your early nugget noticing phase or rate, kind of part of the whole process, but I remember you posting something up about skates, tying your kids' skates.
it's like it can be a real pain in the rear end, but it can also be a huge privilege. And to me,
Yep.
it's a privilege. And it's kind of, I'll tell you how weird that sounds, how weird it is. Last night at hockey, I was tying my son's skates, and his teammate next to him, his mom was there, and his mom was trying to tie his skates, and he was like, "You can't tie them as tight as Dad can." And she was like, "Well, I'm doing my best," and he's like, "Well, So she's like, "Hey, Roland, can you please tie his skates when you're done with Will's?" I said, "Of course I can." And it's funny because to most people it's not a big deal, but to me it was like a privilege. You're going to let me, because there's so much that goes into it, right? How do you like them tied? Where do you like them tight and where do you like them loose? And this kid's got small feet but big shin pads. So I'm like, do you put the tongue under your shin pads or do you
Mhm.
leave them over your shin pads? And literally, he looked at me like, what the hell's going on here? I'm like, I just want to tie them the way you like them. And he's like, so I tied one and I said, do you like it like that? He goes, it's perfect like that. I'm like, okay. So then I tied the next one the same way I tied the first one. And to me, it was like, it's weird, but I feel like it's a privilege. It's a privilege.
No,
I'm here
that's
to serve.
service.
So
Dude, that's service, right? That is the to be of service to someone. I think the feels you're having, that's exactly it.
tell me how you want them done. How do you
Mhm.
like them done? Because you're the one that has to go out there and now do something with them for 50 minutes. And
Yep.
even my son, so he had hockey and then we came home, then he had hockey again. And as I was tying his skates, he said, "Dad, you didn't tie them as tight the first time. Can you please tie them tighter?" And I looked at him like, and there's something wrong with my left wrist, and I was dying. Like as I was tying his skates, I was like, breathing deep. And he's like, "What's your problem?" I'm like, "My wrist is killing me, and I can't get the leverage." And he's like, "Well, it was loose here earlier." I'm like, "Why didn't you say anything? Like, don't hold it in and wait for another time to hit me with it. Let's do it right the first time." So I'm tying his skates. He's like, "Okay, that's good." And it's just funny how particular you can be about that. My wife would laugh at us right now. She'd be like, this is a ridiculous conversation. I'm like, it's not really. This is what I'm living for. These are the things that bring me joy, right? These are the things that, like, to know that I can serve somebody in a way that will truly benefit them is like, it's a big deal. Why do you think I'm a teacher? Like deep down inside, there's a reason that I'm there, right? I'm there to serve. We had my class had a big moment the other day, a really big negative moment. And I not only milked it for what it was worth in terms of teaching them about like life and them moving forward in life, but it was a pivotal moment for me as the classroom teacher to maintain authority over my students. So one of my students who has a difficult time, he came in triggered right from the get-go. And right from the get-go, I was doing everything I could to start to help him settle, right? Everything. I was like out of strategies. By the time we got up, and you've been to my classroom, by the
Mhm.
time we got up the stairs to the upstairs hallway, I had nothing left. I used every single strategy in my toolbox. He was biting nothing. He was taking none of it in. So I braced myself for the explosion that was coming. And I looked at my EA, and we both knew it was coming. We're like, well, it's coming. So batten down the hatches, and I guess we're gonna help him ride through it. There was nothing we could do. And it came out, and some inappropriate things were said on his part. And I said, I'm not having this. You're not going to talk to me like that. I'll let you talk to me in a number of different ways, but what you just did there, it's not happening. Not in my classroom, not on my watch. And so I gave him a couple of choices, and he refused both choices. And so I upped my game, and I made it very clear to him that he was going to pick a choice. And when he saw what I had become in that moment, I saw something in his eyes. I saw him switch out of his selfish, explosive mode into, uh-oh, I think this guy's mirroring what I'm doing. And that was part of the plan, was to show him that, hey, this is what I'm getting, this is what you're getting. And then he backed off. And then it's hilarious, not hilarious, but he backed off, and then the morning announcements came on. So we had O Canada, we had prayer, we had announcements. Then when it was over, I said to my class, things like this happen, but this is not the norm. There is a line in the sand. I am here to support you. I'm here to make you better people. I'm here to teach you, but there is a line. You will not cross that line without feeling the wrath of me as a human. There is a line. Everybody has needs. I'm here to support everybody's needs. And I'm here to forgive, and I'm here to be forgiven. But there is a line. And it was really awesome, because when it was over, I said to them, now I don't know about you, but I'm starting my day over. And I walked over to the door, and I opened the door because it was closed. I don't even know. It's always open. It was closed. I opened the door, and then I said, good morning, class. And they said, good morning, Mr. C. And then we just proceeded as we normally would. Then when recess came, I said to this student, I said, what else can I do for you today? And he said, I like that you talked to us, and I'm sorry I did what I did. And I said, beautiful. Thank you for that. I said, it happens, but I said, now you know where my line is. Do not cross that line. You can be as mad as you want. You can, and I don't know if it's going to work, but he was very aware. You know, he's like, I know your line. I'm not going to cross that line. I said, don't do it. Don't do it. Let's find a way to move you away from the line. You know, and then the rest of the week has been great with this particular student. I think I'm being told by the people around me that he needed that. And it just took 2 months to get there, but he needed to see you be serious, because for a number of reasons, one of which is they believe that he needs to see how much you care for him, because that shows that you really care, that you want to help him move forward, and that you're not going to be a punching bag, but you are there. We can direct it into a real punching bag if you want. And I know you working on the fringes, you probably can appreciate some of this, because on the fringe, you probably see a lot of that. I don't see a lot of that being central, like in the middle of education, the way I am. But he's a student that right now is living on the fringe, but he happens to be attending school in the middle. So it's like, I tell him I'm going to meet you halfway. I'll come out to the fringe, but I can't stay there for long because I got everybody else in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And I need you to come closer a little bit, but we'll walk out to you too. So it's just weird times. I feel like it's just weird. I've never experienced anything like this now. But I'm thankful for my experiences that have brought me to where I am today, because I'm not going to be taken advantage of, and I'm not going to have people hold things over me. When I see somebody hold something over me, that to me is a sign that there's trouble coming. Why would you do that to somebody? Why would you hold something over somebody?
Mm-hmm.
What are you trying to gain by that? For me, that's a signal to step away from that individual. I don't want to spend time with people like that. I don't want to do it. Hold it over somebody else. Hold it over somebody weaker or less experienced. I'm not sticking around for it. And it's funny when you make that clear to people, then you see, well, are they going to shift or are they going to keep holding stuff over me? And then you make your decision and you move on. It's interesting.
Your moment reminds me, one of the tools that I find myself using often, is just, it's either a mental reminder. I say it to myself, or I'll say it to the individual. I'll just kind of plainly say, now what? And the kind of the just abruptness of it, shortness of it, directness of it, to someone that has been triggered, had behaviors that they couldn't control, said words that, you know, they can't take back. And again, working with high school students, a little bit different than you, but working with a tantrum or a triggered person, whether they're 42 or 4, it's kind of being fed from the same river, right? There's a behavior, there's communication, there's a need, there's a goal, right? So with that being said, saying, now what, kind of lifts the edge of the conversation a little bit. And it doesn't always it doesn't always get directly to like a restored relationship, but I find every single time it shakes up the thinking a little bit. I can remember times where I've been dressed down by a student and they're hitting me with multiple F bombs, and you've effing done this and you've effing done that. And, you know, they sort of run out of steam for a moment, sort of say, okay, I hear you. So now what? I'm like, what do you mean now what? Because in their minds, they could be waiting for the, now you need to go home. You know, like somehow I'm going to impose, that image of you saying, holding something over someone. I got this, I don't know, this picture in my mind of, this is way out there. I think I'm saying it right. I think it's called the Sword of Damocles. And all that means is like the idea of the throne, like a ruler sitting on the throne, and suspended above their head is a sword with a very thin thread. And it's sort of like that idea that when you just the power that you perceive you have, you're always potentially in peril. But I almost think like that idea of holding something over someone is very similar. They're wondering when you're going to sort of take their power away, or their wholeness away, or their humanity away by just letting that sword fall. So to have a kid, you know, if that's what we're talking about right now, or even my own children, to be able to have them play a part in what happens in that now what, or for them to recognize that there actually is a what after the now. there's an option there. There's an off ramp, if you will. No guarantees you won't travel that highway again, but I have had really interesting and successful conversations with kids after I've put that to them. Okay, now what? Now that we've had this moment, even, you know, I use it with colleagues too. Someone that just gets to the end of their whatever it is, they're just having to sort of talk and throw it out there, and to sort of say, okay, so now what? And it's almost like you're still pulling a little bit more of that out just to see what else is in there. Because sometimes at the end of the rant or the rage or the behavior, there actually is a solution that maybe the person just didn't feel that they wanted to say right away. They had to give you all that other stuff first. And then you kind of get them like, okay, well, now I would like to, okay, go get a drink of water. Now I'd like to take a walk. Let's take a walk. Or you could take a walk by yourself. Now I would like to go talk to so-and-so, because it actually wasn't with you, Clough, that I was upset. It was with somebody else. Okay, let's go talk to that person then. Now I just want to be in silence, which is also a really valuable thing coming out of like a heavy kind of scream session. I just need to kind of sit here and be quiet for a moment.
In your experience on the periphery, is there space, time, and room to shift from educator to counselor?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is my biggest pet peeve at this being central
Mm-hmm.
in education. There, there. This is my biggest conflict these days. Is that what the kid needs the most at that time? I can't give
Mm-hmm.
because I can't. It's not my role.
I think I have access to it a little more easily than you do. I think it has to do with um, the number of students in my class. I think it has to do with the age of the kids, me being in high school. So I can schedule conversations outside of class time. Um, and I can also, it's simpler for me if I was like, okay, so and so, just come on over here for a second. You know, like it's sort of, I think I have more mobility and I have more opportunity than if for someone that would have 20, 22, 27, 30 kids in the class. Plus, I'm also teaching when we are in class together. Um, I'm teaching a course on learning strategies. So, for better for worse, sometimes it can be as simple as drawing it back to a learning strategy that we've already learned, or a behavioral strategy that we've already learned. I don't have to do the two-step of we're doing math right now, kids in a moment, we have our conversation, and there's no kind of list or curriculum to kind of bring them back to, like something that they could sort of control and learn from. I always have access to resources that reinforce sort of what pro-social existence in a classroom means. So yeah, I do have opportunity. I think the other part too is that the conversations that I have with the parents, they have more experience with kids because their kids are older. And I don't think we often think about that. I think we kind of think about the parents as when we think about the parents, and sorry, I won't say we, I myself, there was a time where somehow if I were talking to a parent that I don't know if we were, I don't know if I was clear in believing that they had experience in working with a teenager at the exact same level that I do. So officially now I've been doing secondary school for 15 or 16 years. So I have that many years of experience working with teenagers. Well, the parent has the exact same amount just with their own teenager. But I don't know if we're sort of getting into that collaborative problem solving or strategizing or goal setting. I don't know if we're clear, because I wasn't, that the person that I was talking to could be talked to exactly like an adult, as a valuable resource, and somebody who has as deep of a understanding of having a kid as I do. Um, and if I think to myself, if you're talking with a parent, so to that end, someone, if you're talking about a 15-year-old, I also like to believe that they have experience of all the ages up to that point. So they're deep in their wisdom of kids up to that age. If you're talking to a parent who has a 6-year-old and that's the oldest child in their house, well, they have 6 years of experience. So what I wonder about is having 6 years of experience of just being a parent, if that level of experience is sometimes, like, for example, for you, you have kids. What's the average age of your students?
They're in grade 3, so 9.
Okay. So your children are that or older, right? So sort of you have more experience with kids than some of your parents if they're oldest kid, if that's
Mm.
the oldest kid. And I don't know if we often kind of just spend a little bit of time thinking about that, because there's sometimes can be an experience differential there where they only know up to that age with their kid. They might not have some of the extra kind of tools to be able to help. So I guess the way that it looks to me is that if you're talking with a parent who one of their kids is in your class and one of the kids is in grade 9, there's more access points to talk about what's going on here and what's actually where it could go. Like you have just more spaces that you can kind of tap into. Um, I really feel for some of my colleagues that have no kids of their own, only because it's great having kids. It's awesome having kids. It's awesome having a family, but also second to that is just the experience that it kind of gets you to think about kids in general. I had a colleague way back in the day when I first started teaching, and she said, her name Jamie. She said, when she started to have her family, it made teaching easier. One part of this is a little bit like what you're working through right now, is that she said it reprioritizes your mind. It reminds you that your life is valuable too, and you need to pay attention to your life away from school. But she also said it also makes it easy because you're now in active lived experience of having kids that are yours, and you become more vested in the general this was her frame. You get more vested in the general wellness of kids because of that, just because you're doing it as a parent. So all of this, just to kind of bring the blah 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 back, I'm far more intentional, I would say, in the last 3 to 4 years. I think I'm far more intentional since my experience working in the program for students on expulsion and suspension. Far more intentional of honoring the experience of the parents and actively pursuing their advice, even after they'll go through a rant, and I'm like, okay, now what? Because we still have to make a plan. So even with the parents, I would be using that. You and I are the ones that have to make this plan. There is nobody else. We're going to do this. We're going to make it happen. That's the what after the now. That makes sense. I don't know. I kind of forget how I launched there, but
makes sense to me.
And just you and me in the room, right? I don't know. Do we have any listeners?
We had one earlier, but they didn't stay very long.
We didn't have snacks. Can I pivot to something?
Pivot, and then maybe it's time for Roland to go.
No, that's all good. I just want to tell you, and this is I don't even know if I mentioned this. I'm getting a teacher candidate.
You have mentioned it.
But I don't think did I mention anything about it, or just like, by the way, I'm getting a teacher candidate?
It started with, I'd really like to get a teacher candidate.
Oh.
Then it turned into, I'm getting a teacher candidate,
yeah.
And I've not spoken to you since.
Okay, so teacher candidate's name is Miriam. So Miriam is going to be coming to work alongside myself and my other colleagues mid-November till mid-December. And what was interesting about what is interesting about it is that, and I only kind of clued into this because I've been receiving a slow trickle of emails from the faculty. Miriam and I have talked on the phone. We've exchanged emails, some text messages, just trying to sort of chat it out and figure things out. I received an email though that is, as I'm reading the email, it's funny, you sort of read an email and or you read something and you kind of like your mindset shifts. You realize that maybe you weren't really paying attention to some details so far. And that's what this email did, because I saw in the email, one of the subheadings in the email was talking about alternative placements. So I was always of the mind that the alternative placement was because something like Spec Ed, which isn't a curriculum-based course or like, it is a curriculum based if you're doing learning strategies. I mean, that's a guidance course. There's curriculum there, but it isn't one of the core, when individuals are thinking about going to teachers college. I still, from my experience, not everybody is kind of thinking, yeah, I eventually want to be a Spec Ed teacher. It's sort of like, I'm going to do math, I'm going to do English, art, and then you kind of do Spec Ed as an add-on. But I was under the impression to this point, and maybe this was total ego, but just happiness too. I was like, cool, someone wants to come. Their intention is to become a Spec Ed teacher. So I'm reading this email. I'm like, I did not read this right. So yes, Miriam is interested in working alongside me. Here's the interesting switch up though. Because of the limited numbers of placement opportunities now because of COVID, and it really is, it's quite low. Like teacher candidates, there are individuals that they're having real difficulty getting any kind of practicum experience. Space that I hadn't even thought about at all. I haven't thought about faculty and for many reasons, but just hadn't really, it never occurred to me even ones that faculty teacher candidates would be struggling to get placements. But makes sense, right?
Hmm.
Totally makes sense. So I read this email, and what I find when I'm reading in the email is that the alternative placements are alternative because the teacher candidates that are part of it are primary junior teachers. So there wasn't enough, or there wasn't the ability to connect some of these teacher candidates in their actual teachable panel, which for her would be elementary. So the next layer was offering up opportunities to go and see areas that they're not aiming to get hired in. And she was saying one of her PJ colleagues is going to hang with a 12U math teacher. So I'm sort of reading this email, and I talked to Miriam yesterday. I'm like, okay, you know what? This is cool. I said, but I just connected some dots. And she's like, oh yeah, it's totally true. I'm like, all right. All right. So, but now, I mean, regardless, I'm still thrilled to be able to work with someone to share resources, to collaborate, to sort of connect and see what they're doing at faculty. Um, I feel like this is a cool opportunity because I was paying attention to it that kind of falls in step, like with our work, the former on-ed mentor stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm really curious as to how this is going to kind of play out with a teacher candidate that's not specifically looking to be in secondary, but is open to the learning. And they're having to do a whole lot of uh, recalibrating as to what a PJ teacher, what the expectations are for a PJ teacher for their learning in secondary. Which is really cool. I love the interpanel consideration. I love that it's probably creating a whole heck of a lot of dissonance at her faculty. Like, how do we, because it's pretty straightforward. If you are a teacher candidate and you go work with someone that's teaching in your space, you're going to do everything that they're doing. And you're going to be sort of designing things that look like what you're going to use when you begin your journey as a teacher. So I said to her yesterday, I said, so do you think there's going to be an expectation, like somehow you have to synthesize and blend in what you learn at secondary and flip it into PJ stuff? She goes, I have no idea. I'm like, awesome. I can't wait to figure this out. It's a really curious experience. I can't imagine specifically how she's feeling about it. We've only had a couple conversations. We're not that tight yet. But as we go along, I'm looking forward to sort of figuring this out with her and trying to get her connected with as many resources as possible while she's at the school. So it's kind of exciting.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about your experience, her
Mm-hmm.
experience. I think it's pretty cool that you woke up one day and you're like, I would like to do this, and now it's happening. I think that's pretty cool. Um, I've never seen or heard of anybody doing it that way. I've always ever seen like the school board say, "Okay, people, we need you to step up because there are people who want to do this. They want to come to our schools, and we don't have anybody for them." I've
Mm-hmm.
seen that a lot, but I've never seen it this way where you're like, "Yeah, I would like to do this. I'm gonna make this happen." So I think that's really cool.
It's out there, right? Like it's just again paying attention, saying yes, kind of now what? So
No, that's cool. Like I said, I can't wait. I think it really sucks that you and I haven't been able to talk as much as we have in the past. I feel like um, our, I don't know, I think our back and forth isn't so much back and forth anymore. Would you agree?
yeah, yeah, it's true. I think we're at a pivot point. I think we're at a pivot point where we're probably just gonna have to phone call more.
Well, it's funny you say that because when I was driving home from work yesterday, I thought about hitting your number and then putting the phone down so it was hands free and just checking in, seeing what's going on because I knew it was going to be a whirlwind. I was going to get
Mm-hmm.
home, grab my kid, go to hockey, come home, eat, break for a little bit, and then go back out. And so it's good that you messaged me and you're like, it's funny, our messages now for the podcast are just 8:30 ? And it's like, yeah, we're in, let's do it. So that's what it's become. It's not even like, hey, what's going on? It's just 8:30 ? And
We
then
know.
yes
We know.
or no.
That's what it is. We know. Hey, check your monitor.
Beauty. The wolf. The lone wolf.
The wolf. So into Saturday we go.
You got big plans?
New and interesting space. So we, we sort of traded holiday for hot tub, right?
Right.
So today's the weekend. We need to empty and refill the tub.
Empty and refill?
Yeah, because we use it in the wintertime.
But why do you need to empty it?
It's part of the maintenance, bro.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, part of the maintenance. You empty it all out, you give it a good kind of scrub, you give it a rinse, and then you fill it back up with water.
Okay,
and
so
you try and time it around. I mean, in so much as global warming really freaks me out, and the fact that we could have such nice weather in November, there's a part of me that's also thankful, because you're supposed to do it. There's differing things, but kind of every 4 months you're supposed to do it.
Okay.
And to have, so this kind of goes, so this will take us December, January, February, and then into March. So our next one, we could be a lot colder than now. So
even if it's freezing cold outside, you still have to do the maintenance?
Yeah. Every week. Actually, there's stuff we do every time we use it.
But let's say when it's March comes along, it's time to empty and refill.
Yeah.
But it's middle of winter.
Yeah.
It's okay. You just do it.
Yeah. You have to.
Okay.
So that's why we were trying to push it into November so that we're kind of getting end of March, beginning of April. So this is all new. Some people say they only do it twice a year. So they'll do it sort of like November and then May. But the company that we bought from, they say you should do it 3 times. Try and get it done 3 times.
Everything's good with the hot tub at the moment?
No. There's another layer. It's a silly layer, but there's another layer. So the tub is fine. Tub is absolutely fine. Us using the tub is fine. Everything about that. It's stuff about the electrical inspection that's just ridiculous. I'll message you.
I was gonna say that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, you'll just shake your head. I feel like there's as I sit there, I'm like, this is where all I'll really say about it is like, this is one of those situations where you think to yourself as a customer, I wish I could do this work myself.
Right.
Because what's actually at the heart of it it has nothing to do with us here in the house. It has to do with the ESA, so the Electrical Standards Association, and the contractor. And I don't know why they're not communicating well, but it's affecting I have to carry the ball. So
fair enough.
We're going
to leave it at that.
Fantastic.
This was season 4, episode 9.
It was.
And Shref's going to be happy if I can push this out quick. Turnaround.
He got to the last one quick. The dude obviously has spare time.
Shref is the man of time. That's all I have to say.
Time bender.
Well, he's got the DeLorean, so he can come and go as he pleases, right?
As he does.
Okay. Have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll be talking sooner rather than later.
For sure, man. Take care.
See ya.